Okay, this video is about how to sketch graphs of polynomials, and you will not be able to use a calculator on this, so make sure you understand each step. Okay, here are the basic steps to a sketch. Okay, first of all, you look at the equation, you apply the leading coefficient test. Decide, is it even, odd, is it positive or negative? And that'll tell you where the arms of the graph are going, both up, both down, down to the left, up to the right, down to the right, up to the left. Whichever way it works, you need to apply that leading coefficient test. That gives you a broad picture of the graph. Secondly, find all the zeros where it crosses the x-axis and their multiplicity. How? Remember, that's how. How it crosses. This is a where. Okay, and this is dealing with the arms of the graph. Okay, plot a few extra points, and I'll show you what I mean. Once you know your zeros, it kind of breaks the graph into sections, and you'll want bits and points between those sections. And then lastly, you connect the dots with a continuous curve. Okay, first we're going to apply the leading coefficient test. Notice that it's even, it's a 4. So it's going to have both arms going in the same direction. Since that 3 is positive, that means it's a happy face. Both ends are going to point up. We don't know what's going on between these two, but we know the two ends are going up. All right, so secondly, that's my first step. Both arms up. All right, secondly, finding the zeros. Okay, so I need to see what my greatest common factor is, see if I can factor something out. I can factor out an x cubed. If I do that, I have 3x minus 4. Okay, equals 0. So then I separate it out. X cubed equals 0, and that's solved. 3x minus 4 equals 0. If I solve this, x is 4/3, which is the same, you should know, as 1 1/3. Okay? So my zeros are 1 1/3, comma 0, and at 0, 0. Now the multiplicity. Look, this factor right here, remember, has a power of 1, which means it just crosses like normal through this point. At 0, 0. Okay, this one right here, that has a power of 3. Remember we said if it's odd and greater than 1, it's going to flatten through that point. So I need to be really careful when I graph this. At 0, 0, this is a key point. It's going to flatten through this. Okay? Now, plotting my points. 1, 2, 3. I'm just going to space it out, so you kind of have some space here. All right, 1 1/3 is the other one right here. So it's going to cross through this part of the x-axis and through this one. This is where it's flattening, this is where it's crossing. Now, you can see that it's going to break, those zeros break the graph into sections, I should say. Over here to the left, between these two, and to the right of this 0. So I need to plot points in each section so I know what's going on. I know ultimately these arrows are pointing up, but I don't know what else is going on in the graph. So I have to do a little strategy to figure out what's happening here. So what I do is plot my extra points. So I make an XY table. Where do I need one? I need one over here to the left of 0, 0. So make it simple. Use -1. I need a point in between 0 and 1 1/3, so that would be a 1. And a point to the right of 1 1/3, which would make it a 2. Keep them low numbers so they're easier to work with. And then I plug them into my equation, the original equation. 3 times -1 to the 4th minus 4 times that's -1 to the 3rd. -1 to the 4th is a +1 times 3 is 3. Minus -1 cubed is -1 times -4 makes it +4. So this is a 7. All right, now I put in a +1. 3 times 1 to the 4th minus 4 times 1 to the 3rd. Well, that's just going to be 3 minus 4, which is -1. And then if I do a 2, 3 times 2 to the 4th minus 4 times 2 to the 3rd. Okay, 2 to the 4th is 16. 16 times 3 is 48, minus 2 cubed is 8, times 3 is 32. So that makes that a 16. Now I have some more points I can plot, that I can put my curve through, all right? So at -1, it's at +7, so that's somewhere up here. At +1, it's at -1, so that's down right about where my arrow is. Okay, and at +2, it's at 16, so it's way up here. All right, so I know that the line is doing this through these points. And I know it's just going to cross through this 0 right here, so it's just going to do this. Now, this is where it flattens, remember? So that's going to look like this. It's going to flatten out just a smidge through there. I'm not looking for artwork. I'm just looking that you can show me that this is flatter than just a normal cross. So I'm looking at your graph. I'm looking at all your work. It does take many steps. You just keep trying. All right, here we go. Same steps. -1/2 x times 2x minus 3 squared. All right, leading coefficient. Now, be careful. This x squared right here, this x is being squared, so that really means this is x squared. X squared times x is what? X cubed. All right, so my leading coefficient is really odd. So one arm's up, one arm's down. Since it's negative, that means it's going to do the opposite of what you would expect. So it's going to go up to the left and down to the right. That's what's happening. Okay, what's in the middle? We don't know. We need to figure this out. So coefficient, it is odd and negative. So we know it's doing something like that. Secondly, we need to find our zeros. All right. Now, thankfully this is already factored for us. -1/2 x, we can set it equal to 0. 2x minus 3 equals 0. That's already factored out. So I solve this. Well, this x is just a 0. This one, if I solve it, 2x equals 3, so x is 3/2. So my zeros are 0, 0, and then 3/2, which is 1.5, 0. Now notice that this first x right here has a power of 1. So this is just crossing. And this has a power of 2, which means it's touching. And it's going to bounce off of it. Alrighty. So part 3 here. Plotting our extra points. So let's plot the points we do know. Here's 0, 0. And then 1.5, 0. Stay right here. Okay. It's going to touch here. It's going to cross here. All right. So we need some points. We need something to the left of this first point here. So let's just use -1. -1. And then we're going to go right between these two, which is at +1. And then over here to the right of this, which would make it a 2. Now we do some plugging in. All right. -1/2 times -1. 2 times -1 minus 3 squared. All right, so this is going to become -1/2 times -1 is 1/2 times -2 minus 3 is -5. If you square that, you get 25. So what's 1/2 of 25? That's 12.5. So 12.5. Go with that. And that's okay. Decimals are okay on this. Now we're going to do the same thing with a +1. 2 times +1 minus 3. That's -1/2 times 2 minus 3, which is -1 squared, which is +1, so I really just have -1/2. Lastly, -1/2 times 2 times 2 times 2 minus 3 squared. So this is going to be a -1 times 4 minus 3 squared. That's a 1 times -1 gives me -1. So here's my 3 new values. Okay, so at -1, it's way up at 12.5, roughly. At +1, it's at -1/2, so it's just coming underneath the x-axis. And at +2, it's at -1, roughly. All right, so here you can see what's happening. It's crossing here, coming up, bouncing, and coming down. And that leaves this little arm to come up to connect here. So remember your multiplicity. It crossed here at 0, 0. It touched here at at 1/2. So keep those in mind as you're working through it. All right, now it's your turn. You can pause the video, try this. I'm going to work through it, and so you can pause and play a little bit, check yourself, or you can completely do it on your own. It is up to you. We will work on it in class tomorrow as well.